Hi, this is your host, Quanisha Green, your Black Woman CEO coach and the founder of the Black Woman Rise movement, and welcome to the Black Woman CEO podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping Black women entrepreneurs to get paid to do what they love, own their time, and achieve financial freedom. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey there, this is Quanisha Green, and I am so excited for today's episode where I'm giving you a bonus. You know, one thing when many people start podcasts, they tell you their story. And of course, I want to share my story because your story matters. But I thought it would be great to do it in this context where I'm actually sharing a training with you that has so far has 4,000 plus views. It's a training that I co-led with actress Kim Coles, who is a storytelling expert. She and I have been having a great time since we met each other back in April 2017, working with each other as clients, becoming CEO sisters, and we decided to play together. So I played in her Kimpire, and she's played over here in the Black Woman CEO Collective. And in July, I think it was the 3rd, yes, of 2017, we actually co-led a live event which was Broadcast Your Brilliance. So in leading up to the event, she and I co-led a training called Your Story Matters because, did you know that your story really matters greatly to your business? And so we wanted to help you to tell your story and to leave a legacy. And so in this bonus episode, I'm actually sharing the training where she and I answered some really common questions that many of you have about actually getting out there, getting known, increasing your visibility and sharing your genius with the world. And so some of the questions you're going to hear us answer during this training is how to tell your story without telling all your business, right? What story to tell if nothing bad has ever happened to you? I think many of us think we have to have the down and out story, rag to riches story to do well in business, and that's not actually true. And we also answered, how do you get paid to tell your story? Or answer this question or this idea that some of you may be asking, will people really pay me for this? So go ahead, listen to today's episode. You'll discover the answers with some additional strategies to help you share your story and grow your business, even if you're just getting started. And you'll get to hear me tell my story that's been so pivotal to me forming my business, first the Black Woman Rise movement, and then shifting into this work with the Black Woman CEO Collective and as a Black Woman CEO coach. And you also get to hear Kim Coles tell her story and how actually reclaiming her life and her story has launched her into a whole new role as this storytelling expert. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and listen to today's training. So hi everyone, my name is Quanisha Green and I am the founder of the Black Woman Rise movement and your Black Woman CEO coach. And I'm so excited that we get to do this Q&A laser coaching call, Your Story Matters, with myself and Kim Coles, really to talk about the importance of telling your story and leaving your legacy. Over the last week, we've been sharing, both of us have been sharing the importance of storytelling to business success. And we've gotten questions. So we were like, let's just jump on the phone because Kim and I are both high touch individuals. Just let's jump on the line, Zoom, see some beautiful faces. We see some familiar faces, some new faces here, and actually, one for us to both tell our stories a little bit in this context, but then also to answer your questions. So there is a chat. So for those who might be on the phone, you can definitely click the link and you'll be able to see the chat. But we're also unmute everyone when we get to the Q&A period just to check in. And that's another way that you can ask your questions. So along the way, we have some questions that came in ahead of time. So we will answer that after we both introduce ourselves. We'll kind of start with some of those questions. But feel free to type more questions into the chat because we're really here to serve all of you this evening. So I would like our lady of the hour to go first. And here I told Kim the other day on my phone, I have her stored in as Kim Coles, the one and only. So the one and only.
I love that.
And not that you need an introduction, but the floor is yours, and then I'll
thank you
after that.
Well, thank you so much, Quanisha. I love this phase in my life and this phase of understanding that collaboration is a really good thing. And so if we leave you all with nothing, understand that this is a collaboration, and you too can have collaborations like this in your life and in your business. And so I'm so grateful for my collaboration with you, Quanisha Smith Green, or is it Green Smith? I still don't know. So Quanisha and I
married, so it's now officially Quanisha Green.
Quanisha Green, hello. So here's the thing. My name is Kim Coles, and for those of you who don't know me, I am an actress, and yes, I was Sinclair. I have the great joy of being able to be on what is considered an iconic sitcom, certainly iconic in the African American community. I like to say Black community because that's a whole lot of syllables, and iconic in general because it was a wonderful show about collaboration, about sisterhood, and Black women and Black men finding each other and collaborating. And, yes, it's a sitcom, and sometimes we, fussed at each other, but it was all in love and all in experiences. So I come from that space of growing together. And we're going to be talking about some of that tonight. So I am an actress, I'm a comedian, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and now I'm a coach. And my particular love is coaching women with an entrepreneurial mindset to help them find and mine their stories. There are jewels in your stories, my dears. And even if there's some fellas here, you too have wonderful stories that will bear for you incredible fruit. And the fruit will be the lessons of your life, the lessons of your life, as well as the legacy that you can leave. And I'm all about that. I'm all about that right now. You helping people tell their story. And whether it is as a speaker or as a presenter or in writing your book or writing a phenomenal About Me page on your website, your stories connect and engage and engender and matter, which is why Quanisha and I decided to work together to help you understand that. We have a special event happening in Philly, which we'll tell you about in a minute. We have some other collaborations that we're doing because we're both very passionate about people sharing their story. And your story can help build your brand too. And I know Quanisha, believes that and agrees with that, rather than having this face of that's cold and just come on and buy my stuff. The truth is people will come and buy your stuff if they know who you are, if you have enrolled them in a way for them to understand who you are, what you're all about, and what it's in it for them. And I'm all about that in this phase in my life. So TV still calls. I had an audition yesterday. I hope I get the job. But I love that I get to be empowered and in power in my life by teaching in this season in my life. That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing those pieces about you, Kim. And let's see. Okay, I can change it to me. Hello, everyone. So for those who don't know me, my name is Quanisha Green. So I'm still may know me as Quanisha Smith. And I am the founder of the Black Women Rise movement, which we kicked off Black Women Rise in 2015. Actually a little earlier than that, started a pilot team, but officially kicked it off in 2015 as I felt a calling from God. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later when I tell my story. And what I do as my other, people know me as a Black woman CEO coach. What I do is really help women, Black women, right, professional Black women who are highly educated. I call you my educated Black ladies, ambitious and purpose-driven to get through that startup and growth phase with ease, right? Because you're ready to get out there, share your story, honor your calling and your legacy. And my whole background, I have a master's in social work. I'm a corporate and master life coach. And I've honed in on particularly Black women leadership, our challenges and our strengths as it comes to really having our sense of self in our careers, right? And so that's what I study. That's why I talk to us. And, many of the women that come into the Black Women Rise community, they connect with someone who's like, oh, you're talking to us in our particular walk and experiences. So really helping you to have an easy transition through that startup and growth phase, because I know that you want to get paid to do what you love. And so since founding the Black Women Rise movement, I've had over 3,500 women who have come into our community. Many of you have done our Black Women Rise Leadership Guide. Recently, I released the Client in Cash Black Women CEO Action Guide, right? So that you can have those 5 sweet and easy strategies so that this whole business thing doesn't have to be overwhelming. And as Kim said, I really do believe there's so much power in your story. Many of us hide behind our computers if we are entrepreneurs, or you know that you're meant for so much more and you're trying to figure out, how do I actually put this together as a brand, right? Or as a service or a product so that people can really understand like my expertise and my knowledge and my strategies. You know, I have something to offer, and you all have been offering this for free anyway, right? So I'm like, let me help you get it together so that you can actually take charge of your life. Right? I believe power is the ability to create your reality, that you can take charge of your life by honing in on this story and actually starting to get yourself out there, build a platform, build a business. Because many of us are taking this piecemeal approach to business, right? Raise your hand or just type yes in the chat if you've been on the webinars, if you've been downloading the free guides. I'm gonna raise my hand because I did it too early on, right? You download the free guides. You were on the webinars. We were seeking free information after free information. People were putting yes, yes. Maybe you even joined the masterminds, right? And so you just kept seeking and you keep seeking. And so my whole thing is that this can actually be a sweet and easy process, right? And I'm all about getting you to the simplest and fastest path to cash, which I'll tell you right now is one-to-one services. On that journey, right, of one-to-one services, doing that direct work initially, not necessarily having to start with the group programs and online courses, right, that one-to-one service, and teaching you a framework for how to do that well so that you can actually start making and generating consistent revenue. So that was my walk. And when I started going into entrepreneurship full-time, so for the last 2 years, I've been a full-time mompreneur, and I have brought in over $75K in revenue in my business. So I walk my talk. I know what I'm talking about. And I've also been the person that has invested over $25K in business education. So when I say I know that approach where you're like going here and going there and trying to put all these things together, right? And my whole thing was like, I don't want another Black woman to have to do what I did to finally learn how to leverage my story, right? How to actually have a business that's generating money, right? So you're going to hear us talk about money, getting paid, and telling your story. Right? So if you don't want to get paid, if you don't like money, which we can give you some reframes for that, or you don't want to use your story in your business, and we'll talk about all the ways you can use story, right, in your business, then this is not for you. So go ahead, log off. We'll still love you, right? You can still hang out with us on Facebook, but this won't be for you. You're going to be frustrated, right? If you're like, well, I don't want to make money. I just want to be out there. And that's great. There's people who every purpose that we have or calling, we don't have to monetize. But we're going to talk about how to get paid to do what you love and using your story as a basis for that. Right, Kim?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Money, money. For those who are on the phone, I was doing the whole twisting my fingers like money, 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 money. Because you get so much freedom, you actually learn how to start generating revenue from your gifts. Mm-hmm. Right? And Kim has a whole acronym on what gifts means, and maybe she'll share a little bit with us tonight. So that's why we both wanted to come on, because she has some really great ways in crafting story. I have my personal experiences in training and crafting story, but also we want you to get some clarity, right? Because when you're clear, then you can start to take action. And then as you take action, you start to get clearer, even more clear on this path and what you feel like you're really called to do. Okay, so that's me, Quanisha Green. There's so much more to me, but I just wanted to at least share that little aspect of my story, and kind of where I am in this business life. Like I said, mompreneur. I've been burnt out. I've been all over this entrepreneurship journey, and these are the background that we're bringing to this experience, both Kim and I. And both of us have used our story as a foundation for the work that we do. So Kim, maybe before we get to the questions, maybe you can share how you have used your story as a foundation, as a kickoff point for this path in entrepreneurship that you took.
Yes.
your acting career, but the path as you shifted gears and said, I'm gonna start getting paid for this knowledge that I know.
Yeah. It was, long story short, it's funny, I just came off of a similar call and I had to share my story, and I was like, is there a short way to tell people that, I made a lot of money on living single? When you're on a hit show for 5 years, it's just an amazing experience. And then the show ended, and I got extremely depressed and lost my mojo, because not only was I no longer playing with my family every day, it was family. You form a family on these shows. I didn't feel viable anymore. I was a little bit unhireable. I worked a little bit, but not a lot after that, because I was known as this iconic character, Sinclair. And so there's sometimes you have to break through something. You have to remind people that you're available. And long story short, I got extremely depressed, extremely blue, and the way I soothed myself was through shopping. And I shopped through all of my money, and I made a great deal of it, but that didn't stop me. I kept going and going and going. And the analogy I always use about all the designer stuff and the red bottom shoes, when you walk, the red wears off. Like, why are we spending all this money for something that doesn't have value the minute we walk? The same with these high priced cars. I had a Mercedes-Benz SL 500, and the minute I drove it off the lot, it decreased in value. And I was busy filling myself up with things because I felt a hole, and things will never fill you up. In fact, you can't be filled up with things. You are already full and abundant and amazing. And realizing that by going to therapy was the thing that saved me. I actually considered suicide because I just couldn't figure it out. And this was the first time in my life that I had experienced this. What do you mean I can't just show up and everything's going to work out just fine? My life had gone pretty well. I had some ups and downs, as we all do. Teenage years are always tough. But for the most part, once I entered show business, I was off and running. And to have this time where things are just not working for me was really difficult. Mm-hmm. Considered suicide. Glad that I decided not to. For me, it would have been the cowardly way out. I just wanted the pain to stop. And I thought, well, if you really want the pain to stop, why don't you work through it? Got myself into therapy, got myself into the space of gratitude. And then I saw the quote by Zig Ziglar, and forgive me if I'm paraphrasing it. If you want to get everything, let's say if I get it right. You can have everything that you want. You can have everything that you want if you help others get what they want. Mm-hmm. I remember going, what? You mean I got to help other people? I just want to help myself. And that was it. It's helping other people. It's serving others that will help you to get everything you want. So the money that Quanisha was talking about, the business growth, the things that you want, the freedom that you want is all on the other side of serving other people with what you already have. It's this beautiful circle of life. I do want to run into the Lion King theme song right now, but I won't. The circle of life.
It's a duo.
Exactly. So once I got that, and that was one of a few ahas, I said, let me just get over myself and go just tell people my story. Maybe I'll help people by telling my story. And so I told people the story of being broke and broken. I told the story of being Kim Coles and having Visa and MasterCard and Discover calling your house. My name really is Kim Coles. There's no place to hide if that person happens to recognize me on the phone. I remember one time Discover called me and I said, you will discover I cannot pay you. What do you do? And in telling my story, I would watch people in the audience really light up and go, wow, me too. Wow. You mean the way you found yourself back to yourself is by being grateful? Wow. The way you found yourself back to yourself is exploring yourself. Wow. I can do that. And I found myself realizing that people were served, and I was serving the world by just sharing my story, by giving people permission to be messy and be all right, and to be a victim and find their way back to being a victor. And my favorite is, you meet people with famous names and famous faces who hug you and tell you, that's my story too. I can't believe you're telling. I could never tell my story. And in telling my story, that is the thing that set me free. And so that's why I'm so adamant about it. That's why I'm such a champion for people sharing their story. Now, that connected people to me in a whole new way. That helped me to build a new aspect of my business. Like you said, I was now on a trajectory, a journey towards being an entrepreneur. And I've used my stories to engender and enroll and invite people to work with me. Sometimes one-on-one, Quanisha, you are right. You are absolutely right. I have group and one-on-one, and I love the one-on-one. I love it. People would say it's trading time for dollars, but there's nothing better than helping someone one-on-one with the gifts that you already have. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't get any certification. I could have, but that doesn't make me any less valuable in what I have inside of me and the gifts I have inside of me. And I love helping others bring forth their gifts as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So much there, and I know we're going to break it down a little bit.
Yes.
But it's interesting that for me, where we connect so much is that both of our stories started, or you can say our entrepreneurship journeys started at this low point. So my entrepreneurship journey started with me sitting on the floor of my studio apartment back in 2012. I just had my son, so he was 3 months old, and I was sitting there ready to take my own life. I always say I had my end of life tool. So just sometimes it can be triggering for other folks. I don't always say what they were. And I remember this story, everyone, of this guy who ended his life and he didn't leave a note. And I thought, Kim and everyone, I said, the least I could do is leave a note for my family. So I decided to write a suicide note. And I started the top of this note with a question. It said, would my 3-month-old son be better off without me? And I was on that floor because I don't know if you've ever been tired. It's like when they say you bone tired.
Yes.
That's how I felt. It was like a deep fatigue. And I felt by that point, here I was 28 years old. I'm now 33. And a traumatic childhood with a drug addict mother. My brother being murdered my freshman year of college, my cousin who was like my brother being murdered 9 months later, having 2 second trimester miscarriages, and then having, at the time, who was my, I guess, baby daddy, because we weren't even engaged, like we were having issues. And I was like, I'm done. I was like, I tried this life thing really well. I went from the projects to the Ivy League, and I made an effort. And I was just like, I am totally done. God, you can have this, right? And so, but I say I ended that letter. It was 4 pages back and front. And that was so cathartic. I said it ended the death call. But earlier in the day, all these things were transpiring in the background, unbeknownst to me. I sent a text to my husband my son was with him that day. And my then, like I said, baby daddy. And I told him, I said, please tell my son that I love him. Please tell, Gregory that I love him. And, that was like he was like, Quanisha was not having such a great day. Here I'm getting this text. So he called my surrogate mom, who's not my biological mom, but she's someone who adopted me into her family at 18. And so all this was happening. So I decided not to kill myself. I said, Quanisha, maybe you just need to go to sleep, right? And so I took 4 Benadryl instead of the whole bottle that I was planning to take. And I was tired. So literally, I just laid down maybe 10 minutes. I opened the door. There was a banging at my door. In Philly, the fire truck comes with the ambulance. So, and then, I'm kind of groggy because I took 4 Benadryl. And they're like, what did you take? How much? All this stuff. And then I wound up at the hospital, committed to the psych ward. And this was my 3rd inpatient hospitalization, right? There was the second one that was involuntary. So here I am later on in the psych ward, and I asked for my tools, right, the next day when I got up, and pen and paper. And I started with the question, how the hell did I get here? Again, like this is my 3rd time here. How the hell did I get here? And so I started writing, and the very last sentence that I wrote was, I'm stronger than this. And that's when I made a decision that day that I would figure out this life thing, because many of you probably feel this way as highly educated Black ladies, that you can do anything you put your mind to, right? And so I said, I have figured out how to get scholarships and get to the Ivies and all these other things. I can figure out this life thing. And And I was out, luckily I was out the psych ward in 2 days. When I saw the head psychiatrist, he was like, I think you just needed some sleep. Like, they didn't give me any medicine. They were like, it might be postpartum, I don't know, but just, you got some rest, you feel okay. Okay. And so when I left the hospital, there's a book that I love called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And I'm a personal development junkie. Anybody else here, you could just type yes in the chat if you love personal development. So for those on the phone, Kim and I are raising our hands, and some other people on the video chat. And so Jack Canfield's book, those first 5 principles, right? It was the first one was take 100% responsibility for your life. Take 100% responsibility for your life. And I said, I know all this information. Let me go implement it. Mm-hmm. And within, I think it was about 2 weeks, because this was the beginning of July. By the end of that month, I had a job created for me, a senior level position at a statewide nonprofit organization. Then within 2 years, I had another job created for me as the co-executive director of the same organization. And during that path, as I moved up as a Black woman in leadership, I was having all these unique experiences where I had people my age and younger coming to me saying, I'm being overlooked for promotion, or sometimes I get this weird stuff. And then I had older Black women telling me, go own your stuff. Don't give these people your life. I have just survived cancer. I have high blood pressure, and I have all this stuff, right? Don't follow my path. Don't let them take this from you. Right. And so then I felt this calling. So here I was in my second year of graduate school at this point, working full time, doing the grad school thing, having a toddler. And I felt this calling to start to do something to address this Black women leadership issue, to study it, but to study it through the lens of my experience. So my master thesis, I analyzed my life, and the topic was Black women bipolar in the battle to exist. And that's what I found in the research, right? And I spent like over 100 hours researching this, and way more now through the business, that, as Black women, we had a particular journey. And one thing that my advisor suggested, he was like, you have sort of solved this problem that you're studying by the way I reclaimed my life. And so I started to say, what happened if I use these strategies that I used to save my life, to go from suicidal to a sister in charge? And I start to teach other people these strategies, not just anybody, but Black women. And that's when those wheels started turning about Black Women Rise, and helping people to activate their purpose, to honor their calling, to really understand that we have to understand our value, right? As human beings, as Black women, give so much. The research shows we don't do the self-introspective work because we never really had time to, right? We were taking care of families, and we are rewarded as Black women for serving others. Even think about how we usually tell our stories. It's a testimony, right? It's not a marketing story where you're going to get paid for it. And one is not better than the other. They each have their role and purpose, right? So that's when I was like, let me start teaching these strategies. And I started to learn about business. And even during that journey, I was learning about business, because I was like, I had a white co-executive director, and he was a white male, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And I was like, I'm doing all this for this organization. I have funders coming to tell me we're giving money because of you. And I said, what happened if I take all this nonprofit know-how and I start to do my own thing? So I started practicing going out and telling my story within the nonprofit context and sharing that. Then I started my own business around this Black womanhood stuff, and started sharing this very same story that I just told you about, basically me being on the floor of my studio apartment ready to take my life. I just did a keynote in March at Kutztown University where the premise was that story. Right. And then I walked them through a process, the same questions that I asked myself, those 4 questions of who you be, what are your values, what do you want to leave as your legacy, and what do you want to be known for? Right. In a sense of knowing who you are, because even in social justice, Paulo Freire, bell hooks, they talk about that in praxis, we have to have that self-reflection in order to be a great change agent. right? So that's when I learned how to tell my story in a context that related to my industry at the time, which was nonprofit, and I still get called to do that. But then, as I just shared with my master thesis and the work that I wanted to do with coaching Black women, helping them with Black women leadership, and entrepreneurship is just another form of Black women leadership, I still use that story, the strategies that I learned around, the self-worth, the self-value, all that is a foundation for the work that I do. And so when I launched the Black Women Rise movement, now 2 years ago, back in July of 2015, 1,000 women joined that first week, right? And how did they join? I shared my story. And then I created it into a Facebook ad, but I shared my story, right? This very same story that I shared about what motivated me to come to this work, the journey of being a Black woman leader. I shared my story, and I shared the story of others. I shared some of the statistics that we are being overlooked, right? I showed them what the data was saying. And I said, do you desire to have a powerful position, right? Have you considered that it's not even about asking people to give us jobs. It's about you getting the information you need to be a powerful Black woman and create your own reality. And I created a resource guide that women signed up for to get. And that's how we got 1,000 Black women in that first week. And then it's just been growing ever since then. Right? I wasn't just selling the set. I told my story. And your story, right, is going to resonate with so many other women. And I actually think that's a great segue to the first question. Because one of the first questions that we got, and Kim and I get this all the time, is how do I tell my story without telling all my business? If that resonates with you, if you're like, that was one of my questions, just put raise hand in the chat. Right? I see people raising their hand. How do I tell my story without telling all my business? I'm gonna turn the table over to Kim to answer that one first. You go first.
Well,
story without telling all my business.
All my business. And I get that question whispered to me. I get that question texted, emailed to me.
Raised all hands, caps and caps.
But if you really pay attention, both Quanisha and I modeled it for you. We told you our stories. And we kind of actually both told you our business. I'm going to ask Quanisha real quick. When you first started telling your story, are the pieces of it that you left out because you held back a little bit? I know I did. Did you leave things out in the beginning?
Yeah, there were, like I said, sometimes I wouldn't tell exactly what was on the floor with me, because I didn't want people to know.
Yes.
Right? And there's little details of it, one for length, but then sometimes it's still, I always say you got to tell what you healed from. Right?
Yeah.
So I started telling the full story when I fully healed from that experience.
Right. So what I'll tell you, first of all, what I want you to know is that your story will heal others and it will heal you. Mm-hmm. And telling your story will help to heal you, because you will find there's something very powerful about people bearing witness to the fact that you are still here, that you have survived something. And maybe it's not suicide like Quanisha and me, we have that in common. But whatever it is, you have survived it. You are still here and you have the story to tell. And it is extremely healing for you. And so I found myself dipping my toe in the water, then dipping my toe a little bit more, then dipping my whole foot. And now I just jump all the way in. Mm-hmm. And there's still some pieces of it that I don't tell, maybe because I haven't fought to tell it, or it makes the story way too long, or maybe it makes it too gory. In your case, there's something that was on that floor with you that you're not telling, and that also leaves, there's something special about leaving things to the imagination, because you let each of us decide for ourselves what we think that might be. You've never even told me what it might be. I don't know, and I don't need to know. All I know is that you were in despair, you were in desperation, and you asked yourself some powerful questions. And so I would say, ask yourself how comfortable you feel, and only tell what you feel that's comfortable. The other thing is, and the more you tell, the better it will, the more and more comfortable you will get, because you will see who you're helping. The other piece of this is, there was another piece and it just flew out of my head. The more you tell, the more comfortable you will feel. And like I said, you can hint at pieces of it. I know what I was going to say. You can hint at pieces of it without telling everything. Mm-hmm. The other question that's within this one is, what if the story I'm telling involves someone else? So some of us have stories about family members or ex-boyfriends or ex-husbands. I have told several stories, but I never told you exactly who it was, because it didn't matter. You didn't need to have a face or a name of this man who had done this thing to me. Sometimes I've generalized. Sometimes I've told a story and it was actually a compilation, because I didn't feel a need to share who this person was. For some of you, it might be a family member who's still alive, and maybe they don't agree with your story, or maybe they don't think that that thing really happened to you. And there's a way to tell the story and care more about the people that you're serving and care more about who you are than caring what they think of it. And you can dance around it if you really need to. Like, if you don't want to reveal and have Uncle so-and-so arrested, then that's okay too. But I do think there's a way to dance around the story and tell enough that people feel, connect. And the minute you begin sharing your story, I guarantee you that there's a large number of people in the room who've had the same experience, and you may not even have to tell all of it. Quanisha, what are some of your tips and tricks for this? For telling your story without telling all your business?
Well, there's two. You said a lot of it. One thing that I didn't think of, but that you brought up, was when your story involved other people. So for me, my story, particularly when I tell, if I ever told about my childhood, it involves my mother. Right. And that she was often abusive, in the sense of like more emotional abuse and neglect. Sometimes there was a whipping that went a little too long in there. It was mostly emotional neglect. And I remember I did a video last year where I was sharing how I often don't take time to appreciate things because of the way my childhood went. And just briefly, like, at 8 years old, I heard God say, go to Harvard and become a doctor, when I had this epiphany that I didn't want my mother's life. I had wrote in my journal that I wanted to jump out the window and take the dog with me. That led to a teacher's meeting. She didn't show up. And my brother told me I would be really sad if you killed yourself. And so it was like this moment when I was like, I don't want this life for myself. I was a very mature 8-year-old, obviously. This is a true story. And so when I tell some folks the story, I said, some of you might be shocked that here it was, or offended, because some people don't have a concept of mother like I do, right? They don't have that experience. And so I was sharing that because one thing that came out of that was that I was often driven by this fear of having Dolores's life, right? And so, but that fear made me study longer. It made me fight, right? It put this spirit, this go-getterness in me. And as I've gotten older, I realized I don't want to live from that place. I want to live from a place of love and peace. And I still have to counteract this striving that just, because it's a survival mechanism. And I was telling that story via video that it wasn't even about my mother. It was about what happened in the striving versus living from a place of love and peace. And my aunt called me. I was actually at a live event and she called me. She was like, how dare you tell your mother business? I said, did you watch the video? Because I didn't even say anything about her, right? And so, but I had to tell my aunt, and I was so glad that I did so much mindset self-work work. I said, this is my story. And so you have a right to tell your truth. And if you ask my mother, and this is actually a moment that we had, she's in total denial. Like, anything I said about what she said or what she did, she's like, I never did that. Because she has a perception of her, of what maybe being a loving mother was, that it blocked out all this stuff, right? And so I just got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to argue with him about it. So if you had her and I on, I would say Montel or Maury, that shows you how old I am. Couch, right? She'd be like, she's delusional. She's been in a psych ward. Don't believe anything she says. She'll make me seem like I'm crazy, right? So that's why sometimes, and there's a lot of books on memoirs that I read too, where, of course, if you want to honor, there's ways to do it with the anonymity that Kim talked about, but also just say it's your truth. You have to honor your truth and how you tell it, right? You don't have to say their name or their addresses and where they still live. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Kim said. But I do believe that, one, in order to not tell your whole business, is to be strategic about the story that you're sharing. And thinking, one, have you healed from it? And in the sense that, do you feel comfortable talking about this story and in a way that it still honors you and it honors the person listening? Right? So it's not is not the way you may tell this. Because here's the way. If you're still boohooing, like if it's going to make you cry to tell it, you have not healed from that story. If your breath like gets caught in telling it, you have not healed from that story. And by telling it, you're doing a disservice to yourself as well as to the people who are listening. Mm-hmm. Because that means you probably haven't minded enough to listen for the messages and the lessons in it that you can share with someone else. Because as Kim said, this is all about, your gift is not about you. It's about sharing it in service of whoever your niche or target audience is, your ideal clients, your soulmate clients, right? There's someone praying out there for what you uniquely have to offer. Mm-hmm. And once you have the clarity on the challenges that you serve, then you can actually know which stories to share, maybe how to share it. Like Kim said, she does a compilation sometimes, right? And how to share it so that it's in service of them and what they're struggling with and providing the solutions that they need to get from A to Z, or A to F first and then F to Z, or whatever they're going. So, right. So have you healed? Have you minded for the messages that are in it? And does it connect to your ideal audience? So I think about all those things when I'm thinking about what story to share, and then how to do it in a way where it's not telling my business. And I'm one of those people, I'm an open book. So even that phrase of how do I do without telling my business or sharing too much, I don't even have that paradigm in my head, honestly, because, and someone recently said on Facebook, like, oh, I love your transparency. And I'm like, that's the only way to be. But I value authenticity, right? I value integrity. So it doesn't bother me to say, like, you know, I did this or I did that, or I like sex with my husband. Like that is like shocking to me. Sometimes people might clutch their pearls like, oh my God, Quanisha said that. But that's also my personality. I've been that way since I was a kid. I'm like, I'm gonna say what I need to say. But once again, is it in service of whatever the, like say the purpose of the call is today, or you know, the purpose of the training, or is it going to help your clients solve the problem that they're having? So in a business sense, that's how you can, you know, make sure that you're choosing the appropriate stories that way. Kim, did you have any last thoughts on this one?
Not on that. I wanted to move to another question that we got. The question is, what if nothing's bad? What if nothing bad has ever happened to me? Mm-hmm. And, you know, each one of us told stories that were, transformational, pivotal, mind, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Mind. It's been a long day, and I'm not journey twisting stories. Right. You know, we told you what would be considered sort of a bad story. So I'm going to ask you first, what would you tell someone if they say nothing bad ever happened? Because I have an answer for it too. So I'll let you go first.
So your story doesn't have to be like mine and Kim's, right? It could be, you were at work and you had this epiphany one day that you need to eat better because you're at your cubicle and you realize you were eating Pringles all day, right? Like, once again, going back to, particularly that we're talking about this in a business context of what's going to serve your ideal client, what were the lessons from that? And then what is a story that would help, like a life story, or even a client story, whatever it is, that will help illustrate the challenge that you too have faced, or you too have helped someone, and then how you solved it. Mm-hmm. Right? What were some of the emotions or thoughts that you had associated with it? So it doesn't have to be, because I've gotten this question a lot too. It doesn't have to be, like you said, that life altering, everybody gonna boohoo and cry because, and also when you tell your story in a way, people probably won't cry. They'll be like, wow, I resonated with that. Or someone actually said in the chat, snaps, this is my story. But she's probably not sitting there crying like, oh my God, you re-traumatized me, right? Because we tell it in a way that's empowering. Mm-hmm. So once again, it's thinking about stories that will connect with your ideal client, with what they're feeling and their emotions, and then also takes them on a journey out of it. And so whatever those pivotal, those aha moments, those insights, those personal breakthroughs that you got, those are the stories you can tell. And it doesn't have to be, those dire emotional stories.
Right. You know, I call certain stories that I can't get my lighting together. Sorry.
You look great, so we can see you.
That's all that matters. There are certain stories that I refer to as signature stories, and that's the term I was looking for before. A signature story doesn't have to be a bad, quote unquote, bad story. And actually, I don't know if there are any bad stories. It's all perspective. It's how if you came through it, it's not a bad story. It's let's not, if we try not to put any negative connotation on it or give it any judgment. If you got some lessons and if you found some perspective, a way to look at it for you and to heal you and to help others, then there are no bad stories. I call them signature stories. And I have a story of me the day I realized that I should be doing stand-up comedy. It is a big story. It is a signature story for me, and it is a happy, yummy, wonderful story, and no less effective than the boohoo story that I can tell you as well. So I always tell people to gather all of your stories. And I think what Quanisha is saying in so many ways is you sort of reverse engineer it. If you know what your desired effect is, if you want to enroll people, if you want to engender people to work with you, if you want people to know who you are, you work with the end in mind. You work to attract the client and the customer that you're looking for. You work to move people on a journey that you want them to move on, and telling certain, I pull my stories out, and this is the one I'm going to use for this. Sometimes I just want to make you laugh. Sometimes I want to make you think. Sometimes I want to, it's okay to not make you cry, but I want to make you feel. It's all about how you want. Here's what I want to say. It's all about how you want your audience or the people you're presenting to feel, and that's how you choose which story you choose.
And that was one of the questions we got: what story to tell? And you just answered that.
Yes, I did.
Last one that we had here was, how do I get paid to tell my story? Will people really pay me for this?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is people will pay you for it, and Quanisha and I can help you with that. It really will mean hanging out your shingle as a speaker. And there have been some speaking gigs I've done that I didn't get paid for because I wanted to just have the experience. There's some people who have strong feelings about that you shouldn't do it unless you're getting paid for it. Sometimes you get paid in other ways. If you have products or courses or books, you can sell your products at the end of the room, and that's a big conversation and a big possibility for you. But you absolutely can be paid. I think you hang your shingle out as a speaker. You hang your shingle out as a panelist for panels and conversations. You hang your shingle out to attend conferences and be a host for different events. And so you absolutely can be paid. And you can also do, as Quanisha talked about at the beginning of this, you can coach others with your expertise. And so those are just some of the things I'm thinking of. Quanisha, I'm sure you have answers too.
Yeah. So another way to get paid, Kim talked a lot about like paid speaking, if you want to be a paid speaker, but you could just do it as part of your business, right? So you can tell your story in a way that captivates audiences and then attracts your ideal client. Because once again, you're talking to the particular challenges of this ideal client. So one, you got to know who your ideal client is. What are their challenges? What your signature process is as far as the solution, the unique solution you walk someone through. And then you need to have an offer, right? You need to have created a paid offer that you're going to charge people for. And so at the end of, say, telling your story, whether on a Facebook Live or in an email or, on a video, a call like this, then you would offer people something, right? The opportunity to explore working with you deeper. That could be some people we call it a clarity or discovery call, to help explore how your programs or products may help them. Or you can say, hey, everyone, if you enjoyed this call, if you're still feeling stuck and need support, I have XYZ that can help you work through this. And that's when you can send them a link to a page where they can learn more about your product or service. So you can tell your story and get paid by then offering a paid, product or service where people can work with you deeper. But often the story is what gets people to build what's called the like, know, and trust factor. That's so pivotal to people making a buying decision. Because think about when you buy, you like, know, or trust. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be the business, whether it's Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Target, right? Kim and Quanisha. Like, know, and trust, you start, sometimes telling your story allows people to build that, experience you, and they say, hey, I like her, or she understands my walk in some way. Let me sign up, or at least explore this opportunity to work with them. So you got to have something created. You have to have claimed your expertise, put it together in a package, program, or product,
right? And then sell it. And for some people, the speaking itself is the product, right? They can say, I will come and talk to your audiences and motivate them or inspire them or give them my life lessons in that way. So that's still a service that you're providing, even as a paid speaker. But those are some ways that you can use it in your business as a way for people to get to know you and then offer an opportunity for them to work together.
What a great training, and I hope you enjoyed it and got so much out of Kim and I sharing these 3 keys to using your story in service of your business and how to have success from it. You know, in the training, we talked about the importance of telling your story without telling all your business, so that you can actually attract people and engage them. You know, even to tell that story if nothing bad has ever happened to you. And lastly, we just ended the training with how to get paid to tell your story, because people will really pay you for this. And I want to give you an awesome resource that can help you with the getting paid. As I shared at the tail end of the training, there are 5 key components you need to start to get paid to tell your story, particularly if you want to do it the whole thing as a business, right? You got to get that clarity on your vision. You have to discover who this ideal client, or I like to say soulmate client, is. You have to create a signature package, particularly if you are a service based entrepreneur. Then you got to showcase your expertise, right? You got to give people a taste of what you do and how you do it to build that like, know, and trust factor. And then you got to get known for your genius, right? You got to actually get out there in the world and let people know who you are. They got to see you, and you can use that to build your tribe. So to help you with this, I have a free resource that you can download. It's called the clientcashguide.com, where I walk you through some key questions that will help you answer and get clarity overall in all those pieces that I just shared. So go to clientcashguide.com and you can download the Black Woman CEO Action Guide, Client and Cash, where I'm sharing 5 sweet and easy tips to help you rock this aspect of your business. Don't forget to check out Kim Coles. So you can go to kimcoles.tv, because she is the storytelling expert, right? She can help you identify which story to tell, how to tell your story, and even how to mine it for those gems that are going to help you to showcase your expertise, get known for your genius, and really broadcast your brilliance. So make sure you go to kimcoles.tv, and I'll make sure both of these links are in our show notes. So clientcashguide.com to help you with answer those 5 key pieces you need to really help you get paid in telling your story and build a revenue generating business. And Kimco's TV, if you would like, Kimco's.tv, excuse me, if you would like some support in helping you to do that. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and for more Black Woman CEO wisdom and expert tips, please visit blackwomanceo.com. So this is your host, Quanisha Green, signing off. Until next time, remember, power is the ability to create your reality.